were dealt with by the Gardaí, by the Department of Justice and by the former Minister for Justice. So my apologies to you if I wasn't as accurate there as I should be in respect of a matter being brought to my attention that a copy of the letter that had been sent to the County Corla was forwarded to the Department of the Taoiseach with a covering note from the legal firm on the 8th of December.
Deputy Ruth Coppinger.
Thank you, County Corla. Taoiseach, today Irish Water have issued their 4th deadline, deadline number 4 for people to register their details with them. People now have a 4th chance to register with them in April. Now, apart from it being a subversion of the English language, would you agree that it's another sign of desperation on the part of yourselves and Irish Water? And it seems that the Labour Party has, and the Labour Minister has, as flexible an attitude to deadlines as he has to his election promises of not imposing water charges in the first place. But despite giving people 4 chances, would you also agree that issuing 2.1 million packs and getting back less than 900,000 is an abysmal failure? Taoiseach, it's less than 50% registration rate despite all your best efforts, and that's accompanied by the €100 that people can get if they register for doing nothing but registering with Irish Water. And it's also, by the way, you shouldn't take it as any guarantee that those people will pay the bills when they actually arrive in April. And Taoiseach, I just wanted to ask you, are you going to proceed with your despicable plan to steal money for Irish Water from council tenants and from private tenants in this state? You want to turn councils and landlords into debt collectors for a semi-state company, and it seems, judging by comments made this morning, you want to turn landlords into bully boys of their own tenants to get them to pay up to Irish Water. When are you planning to introduce this particular piece of discriminatory legislation against non-homeowners? And do you not think that people in the private rented sector have enough on their plate, thanks to the housing crisis that you've foisted on them, rising rents and the danger of being made homeless at any time by those self-same landlords if they don't pay this unfair austerity measure? And by the way, Taoiseach, you're taking on a huge sector. The CSO released figures last weekend that in Dublin, amazingly, only 59.4% of people now actually own their own homes. So you in your own in the capital city here will be taking on hundreds of thousands of either council tenants or private tenants. And if you think that people are going to take this line down, you're really badly mistaken. Last night, I spoke at a meeting of almost 200 people in a community in Athlone who turned out in sub-zero temperatures. It was about -3 when I arrived there, and their mission was to discuss how not to pay the water charges and how to finally persuade you to get rid of them. Now, you would have seen at the weekend, I'm assuming, and maybe you'd comment, the huge protests that took place on Saturday. Despite not being officially called by any group whatsoever, these were self-organised by communities. Despite it being the start of the new year, people turned out in their tens of thousands against the water charges. So, Taoiseach, would you agree that the steam has not gone out of the water charges? And will you now agree that you should abolish both Irish Water and also the water charges before you're faced with even further humiliation in 2015? Because all the indications are that not just registration, but an absolute massive boycott of the water charges is lying ahead of you if you don't do this.
Thank you. Captain Boycott again.
I do not agree that Irish Water should be abolished. I do not agree that water charges should be abolished. As Deputy Coppinger is well aware, the charge now for a single person is €1.15 per week once they are registered with Irish Water and receive their contribution of €100, and €3 per week in respect of 2 or more adults living in a household. You seem to distinguish between what you call council tenants. There are council tenants in other places than your own constituency, and many of them have been paying for water for years and very glad and happy to get a good supply of water. You seem to distinguish, Deputy Coppinger, between the people of the country. You seem to be happy that people should continue in this country to have to boil water for years for themselves and their children. You seem to be happy that we should continue with 42 towns emptying raw sewage into lakes and rivers. You seem to be happy that a couple of thousand kilometres of inferior water leaking 40% into the ground should continue. You seem to be happy where people, including, as you call them, council tenants, I call them citizens of our country, live in houses that are serviced by lead pipes. You seem to think that it's appropriate to go on with a situation like that. Well, I don't. I don't. It's about time, Deputy Coppinger, that everybody understood we all have a contribution to make here. And the government have listened very carefully to the vast majority of people who carried out legitimate protests about water and their feelings on it over the last number of months. And government listened very carefully. And I deplore, absolutely deplore, the small number of people who carried that way beyond the bounds of decency and normality in attacking Uachtaráin and Heron in the way that they did. This is not in keeping with any democratic decency. And if you have any authority or influence in that regard, you might deal with it. So Irish Water is not going to be abolished. It's there for the purposes of being able to fix the current situation and invest for the future. Now, I note the party in front of you have a very peculiar way of putting forward their economic prospectus on this. It's now down to what they call all forms of formula. Well, as far as the government are concerned, we've listened very carefully to ordinary people who have concerns about this. We want to bring about a situation where a €1.15 charge applies for a single person and a €3 charge for two or more. And it still allows them to be able to beat the cap once the meters have been installed over the next period ahead.
Thank you. Deputy Coppinger.
Well, Taoiseach, you yet again failed to even answer this central question, was on the registration figures and whether you were happy with them or not. I'll take that as a no. Taoiseach, my point is that it's very obvious if people wouldn't even register, despite you giving them €100 to register, they're hardly liable to turn out and pay the water charges in April. And I was actually offering you a chance to save your own skin, to retreat on this absolutely abysmal policy of pushing Irish Water and pushing the water charges. Now, in relation to the figure, everybody out there knows, and you never listen, but everybody out there knows it starts at a level and the only way is up. The bin charges, which you always throw back at us we failed to prevent, have gone up by about 400% since they were introduced. So people know you want to get the concept of payment in and then ratchet it up as the years go on. Just in relation to protests, Taoiseach, and despite your best efforts and the efforts of some in the media, my party and the position of the Anti-Austerity Alliance is very clear. We defend the right of people to protest. We don't resort to any to any personal insults against people. That's not our method. What we do focus on, however.
Please put your question,
Well,
Deputy.
happily, any meetings I've attended, I'll tell you, people don't believe the media anymore. Actually, there's a huge cynicism about it. But the key thing that I would be focusing on, Count Corla.
Would you put your question, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The key thing, Count Corla and Taoiseach, is that the bills are coming in April. That's the focus of the Anti-Austerity Alliance and the We Won't Pay campaign. Yep. We will be linking up with tens of thousands of other people all around the country, speaking at meetings where we can, assisting communities to boycott these bills. And already you have a huge level who've decided not to pay, and I think will be joined with many others. And just
sorry, Deputy,
Taoiseach,
way over time. Would you please put your question? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, Taoiseach, my question is this. Are you happy with the registration figures of less than 50% returns? And if not, what do you plan to do about it? It's very clear that you should retreat on the water charges now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Coppinger. I might say to you that there has been a huge increase in the registration of people all over the country to Irish Water in the last few days. Over 1.125 million people and households have responded to the campaign. almost 900,000 Irish water customers have registered. That's 59%, almost 60% of customers. And we would encourage as many people as possible now over the next period to register also. The position is that if somebody doesn't register, there will be a default 2-adult household bill of 260 issued, and those people will not be entitled to the €100 contribution made from the state. In having listened to the people very carefully, I would say to you, Deputy Coppinger, that the Minister has made it perfectly clear that nobody is going to be cut off in respect of the water. I think that's an important element. It's not the same as with the gas or the electricity or whatever else. A different model has got to be supplied here, and government want to be as flexible and as amenable to the concerns of people as possible. Now, I note that you said your party defend the right to protest. So does this party. So does every party. But I didn't hear you say that you condemn the disgraceful remarks made about our President, Uachtaráin na hÉireann. I didn't hear you condemn, whether they're the members of your party or not, the antics and the behaviour of a small number of people who have brought the water campaign into complete and utter disrepute and have turned off hundreds of people who were prepared to walk in the original marches but are now fed up to the teeth of the carry-on of what you've been at.
That completes Leaders' Questions for